Okay, so this is essay question 1 for the common test. Yeah. We go through A first, then we do B. Yeah. So A asks how rational firms make price and output decisions to maximize profits, and then why some firms may make different price and output decisions. So this is 10. 10 is 10 plus 0. So there are two requirements for the question. So the first requirement is just use black color. So the first requirement would be how rational firms make price and output decisions. That's one. And then for requirement 2, it will be why some firms make different decisions. Right. So the first one, right? The first R1, this is answered using the marginalist principle, right? Marginalist principle meaning you weigh MR and MC. So you get to R1 first. So for R1, the way you explain it is like this. So you can draw the profit maximizing the market structure diagram. So this is AR, this is MR, this is MC. Yeah, so you know that profit maximizing firms will choose where MC equals to MR. That's at QM. Yeah, and then they will charge a price of PM. Yeah, but you really need to explain what exactly is happening, right? So the way you want to explain it, right, is you have two cases. One case at Q2, which is where you can see here MC is more than MR. So MC is here, MC2, and then your MR is here, MR2. So this is what the first case. And then you also have the other case where you have the other case in the red color region where MR is here, MR1, Q1 is here, then MC would be here. So the way you want to explain how firms make the decision is to look at two cases. So you look at case number 1 where MR is more than MC. This is at Q1. And then you look at case number 2 where MC is more than MR. And then you describe what's happening for the two cases. Yeah. So you start by saying that firms make decisions using the marginalist principle. The marginalist principle, where they weigh the marginal revenue against the marginal cost. Yeah. And then you look at case 1. So in the case of case 1, the marginal revenue is at MR1, and then the marginal cost is at MC1, right? So in this case, MR is more than MC. And then you have to explain to me why this is not profit maximizing. So the way you explain how firms make rational decisions is to explain the cases where those decisions are not rational. So the first case where it's not rational is where marginal revenue exceeds marginal cost. So, and then you tell me, hey, this quantity, therefore at this quantity, profit is not maximized. And the reason why it's not maximized because by increasing your quantity, the firm is adding more to revenue than to cost, and therefore it can increase profits by increasing quantity. Yeah. So you need to explain to me step by step. Okay. So you step by step you tell me, okay, firstly, here's a situation where it's not profit maximizing, here's Q1, and the reason why it's not profit maximizing because you're adding more to revenue than you are to cost, and when that happens, you could be increasing your profits because you're making more money. More money is coming in, then more money is going out, so therefore you should increase quantity when you're at Q1. So after you explain case 1, which is the green color case, then you explain the yellow color case, which is at Q2, right? So you just take the same explanation in that when you flip it. So in the case of case 2, marginal cost is at MC2. Yeah, so what you're doing is you are reading off you're choosing a particular quantity, Q, yeah, and you're reading off the MC curve. So you dash upwards. Maybe let's use a different color. So what you're doing is, maybe let's use pink. So what you're doing is you're taking Q2 and then you're reading off, hey, what's the Y coordinate of the MC curve? Oh, then that's MC2, look at that. And then you take Q2 and then you say, hey, you read off the MR curve. You say, okay, you go upwards and then, oh, look, this is the MR. You're reading off the MR here. So what you notice is that your margin cost is seen by MC2, but your marginal revenue is much lower, right? So your marginal revenue is at MR2. So here, when you are at this unit, what is basically happening is that on the last unit is adding the last unit is adding more to cost than to revenue. So if the last unit is adding more to cost than to your revenue, then why are you producing the last unit? You should cut back. And if you cut back, then the firm could decrease its costs more than it decreases its revenue. It decreases revenue, and therefore it will increase profits by cutting back production. And therefore if case 2, what you're saying is, okay, look, case 1 is not profit max, look at that. You look on the left, if to the left is not profit max, to the right is not profit max, then QM, this must be the profit max. Yeah, so therefore the firm profit maximizes by producing at QM. Yeah, this is the profit maximizing quantity. Then, so this is the Q aspect of the question, right? So the question is asking you for price and output. So this is how you determine output. The way you determine price is, what you're doing is that you see the blue color one, so you've chosen QM. What you do is you charge the maximum price people are willing and able to pay. So what you're doing is you're reading off the Y coordinate here. And then you're saying, okay, at this quantity the maximum price people are willing to pay is PM. Yeah. So then you just add it by producing at QM, and then firms will then charge the maximum price that consumers are willing and able to pay. Which is PM. And so that's how you have your first requirement. Yeah. First requirement being, here's how rational firms make price and output decisions. Okay, then we get to the next one, which is requirement 2. Why firms make different decisions. So here, maybe I'll just shift this away. Let's shift this away. Okay, so the way to answer this why firms make different decisions is actually to use something called alternative objectives. Okay, so there are actually many of the alternative objectives you can bring about. So the first one is the one that's actually inside the answer key, is entry deterrence. Alright, but there's others also. So you could have also written revenue maximization, or you can written profit satisficing. Okay, so I'll go through maybe one of them in more detail. Yeah. Maybe entry deterrence first. Okay, maybe I'll go through 2 in detail to see how. Okay, so in the case of entry deterrence, it goes like this, right? So you have quantity, this price, revenue, and cost. Okay, then we will profit maximize, right? So MC goes here, MR. This is quantity, AR, and then you have PM here. Okay, so what actually happens is, so maybe so you profit maximize, then maybe let's just draw an AC curve. Like this. Maybe I need to an AC curve like this, right? So here, what actually happens is that, okay, maybe I should, sorry, give me a while. I should put the AC curve like that. Okay, so initially what actually happens is that you charge a profit maximizing price PM, right? That's what you're supposed to do lah. But then in the case of entry deterrence, what this means is that, okay, so if you charge a price of PM, what actually happens is that some firm could be producing at this output. So what you do is that at this price, some firm could be could be making normal profits by also charging this price, right? And so if you follow the AC curve, the minimum scale of production you need to produce at and incur a AC equivalent to PM, the minimum scale of production you need to produce at in order to incur an AC that's equal to PM is here at Q1, right? So any firm that wants to enter and compete with you just needs to fight with the price of PM. And PM is, because it's so high, the firm can actually enter at a very, very small scale of production and yet still make normal profits, right? So the way entry deterrence works is that you can choose to charge a price that's maybe lower. Yeah, so maybe you can charge somewhere around here, maybe at P2, and this means that a firm will need to enter now at a larger scale of production. Let's call it Q2 here, right? In order for them to make normal profits and still compete with you, right? So the idea here is that if the firm profit max and charge PM, then a new entrant can enter at a scale of production equivalent to Q1, which is quite a small scale of production. And then you contrast it with the other case. So let's say the firm charges P2, so maybe let's use yellow. However, if firm practices entry deterrence, meaning he deviates from profit max and he charges P2, then a new entrant needs to enter at the scale of production of Q2 in order to make normal profits. Make normal profit. And so how does this deter entry, right? So the way this deters entry is that if you have to enter at a larger scale of production, then it increases the financial risk, because once you come in big, right? So it increases the financial risk and acts as a barrier to entry. And that's why it deters entry, and that's why firms might not want to price at PM, they want to price at P2 instead. Yeah. So this is the first example of a deviation from profit max. But you also can write B also, revenue max, right? So revenue max is a bit different. Revenue max happens, okay, so maybe let's use a different color. So if you want to write revenue max, you can, but you have to explain to me what's happening for revenue max. So in the case of revenue max, there's a difference between so the ownership of the firm, of the firm is in the hands of the shareholders, right? So maybe you are the owner of the firm, but then the operations, the day-to-day operations, is run by managers, and the managers are compensated based on commissions, compensated based on sales commissions. So if they are compensated based on sales commission, then there's a tendency for them want to sell more regardless of the cost, right? So there's a tendency for managers or salespeople to want to maximize revenue instead, right? And the way they maximize revenue is they produce closer to MR, the point where MR equals to 0. So the way this works is if you draw the profit max diagram, right, and this is your AR, this is your MR, then you are supposed to stop here, right, at QM and charge a price of PM, right? MC equals MR. You're supposed to be producing here, but then you don't, right? You want to continue, because if you see, if you are at QM, right, the next unit is still adding to your revenue. Can you see? Because the MR line, the Y coordinate is still above 0. So if you are producing at QM, why are you stopping, right? You can produce the next unit and then still earn more revenue. And so there's an incentive for people to keep wanting to produce more to earn more and more revenue. So then you go down and down and down, you keep producing more and more because the next unit is still positive, the MR is still positive, you're still adding to revenue. So you keep adding up to here where MR equals to 0, and then you say stop. So this is the Q revenue max quantity, right? And then the price we charge is then here. It's just a coincidence that I'm intersecting the MC, okay? But otherwise, you can put P revenue max. Yeah, P revenue max. This is a coincidence, yeah, that it's here. But so if that's the case, then you'll produce at Q revenue max and charge price equals to P revenue max instead of where PM and QM is. So that's the other case, which is the revenue max case. Okay. The last one which some of you wrote was profit satisficing. I also accept this, so I'll just say it verbally. Profit satisficing happens when firms don't have enough information, or the cost of obtaining the information is so much more than what is worth it for people, and people may want to avoid stress or work shorter working hours, and hence so long as they hit supernormal profits or a certain degree of profits, they stop and they don't bother to maximize profits. Yeah, so profit satisficing is also a possible elaboration. So I would say A, B, or C would be good to elaborate. Yeah, so that's for essay question 1A.